almost welcome, almost welcome. Let me push the right button. Hey, I am pushing the right button. I am the ever-loving Lonnie Webb. Oh, now I can see. That helps a lot. Sorry about the false start. We are today looking at Solaris. My first video didn't quite take, so got hung up in YouTube rendering hell. That's never happened to me before. But maybe I just uploaded it wrong. That's something that's happened before. Yeah. Um, so let's get on with this. Solaris is a movie that is made from a book. Let me push that. There we go. Okay. Stanislaw Lem's Solaris is a Soviet era science fiction piece, and it is pretty trippy from what I understand. I have not read this book. Um, the main reason I haven't read it is because I don't read Russian. There are translations. I encourage you to give it a crack, and somebody get back to me. Let me know if I should read it. Um, I suspect it is a little bit better than the movie, but also the Solaris remake in the 2000s is supposedly a hair closer to the mark in terms of the novel, but it is greatly shortened and adapted to the attention span starved audience of today. I think as a result of just a little bit of thought experiment, you might go for the previous version in 1972 because the character of time itself is very powerful in the director's vision. But more on that in just a minute. The 1972 Solaris is in fact a remake of the previous 1968 TV movie that was done in the USSR, and this is kind of unusual. I didn't even know that they had movies on Soviet TV in the 60s. It never occurred to me to think about what they might have on Soviet television. So having said that, I think it's interesting. It's interesting as a phenomenon. The director did have a vision in this telling, and some things to look out for when you look at it. I will explain about spoilers in a minute. I will show you some set pieces, and then we will get into spoiler territory. I'll flash it up on the screen, and I will caution everyone that that's the time to bail out. So you're still safe. And in fact, before we get too far along, if you don't mind, please hit the like button. Please subscribe and please share. It really does help. And do it for me and do it for your favorite YouTuber. I am a comparatively small channel and it means a great deal. So having said that, let us get back to revisiting Solaris 1972. The director uses expansive, slow establishing shots. And it's to create a sense of air, a sense of atmosphere, a sense of aloneness. And that's a crucial aspect of the main character, Chris Kelvin's personality and his psychology. So having said that, let's introduce Chris Kelvin a little bit. I'll bring it up on screen. There we go. And another little tap or two. That looks much better. Opening up on Solaris. This is where our main character is. Chris Kelvin is somewhere approaching the edge of Siberia on his parents' land, and that is their home. I presume that is the home that he grew up in. And I don't know the function of the balloon. That might be some kind of power generation that somebody in the 60s would recognize. I don't recognize that. It may just be something the director put in to draw our attention in a vertical line there. Either way, it works. And Chris Kelvin is hanging out, and he is struggling with his inner demons. I'll say it that way, his inner demons. And his memories are probably getting the better of him as he remembers his wife. Her name is Hari. And from the time that they were married to the time that she committed suicide 10 years prior. So he's carrying around some baggage. And he strolls still in the opening scene, which takes forever. This movie is 3 hours long. Every bit of dialogue, every bit of action could take place in the space of time of a Big Bang episode. But you got to have the character of time, the expansiveness of time taking place in order for this movie to really have the meaning it's meant to. There's Chris and his dog. I keep wanting to say Chris Klein. I don't know why. Inside the house, we find Burton. He's an ex-pilot, and at one point, he was on the space station Solaris, which is he was on the space station studying Solaris. Solaris is an oceanic planet, and there is a small manned crew on the space station that studies the planet, and we don't know what is so interesting about the planet that they want to know about it. It kind of looks like Venus was thought to look at one point. We'll get a look at the practical effects a little bit later, but this is what the man looks like now. He was previously interrogated by the Soviet, Space Command. I don't know if that's the right word, but they wanted to know why he saw things that were mysterious, if he had some psychology problems, and they found that they needed to take him out of service as an astronaut because he said things that did not appear in tape that should have, in their opinion, appeared. This is an example of the practical effects used in the film for the surface of Solaris, and that's the ocean that as it's represented. And then there have been 2 or 3 Soviet-era films that deal with extrasolar planets that have oceans, and they have some interesting overlays and optical effects that are very practical. Of course, they'd have to be. The only thing they had that wasn't that would have been approaching our computer animation of the day would be just pure animation. Uh, so these teacup film effects were probably the best that could be had at the time. The space station Solaris is is has a meaningful appearance in the film as it orbits in a very low orbit over a very large planet, I assume. Now, um, floating is a big deal in the imagery of the movie. In fact, I'll go a step further and say this movie is all about imagery. It's not about what is said. It's not about uh, the nitpicky little details that George Lucas filmed. Uh, in Star Wars, there are all these little trinkets and doodads and things that got dirty during with use, and there were switches and levers and panels and doors that opened and closed. Well, that's not what this movie is about. It's more about the impression of the feelings and the relationships between Chris, Kelvin, and the others that he encounters. Now, with just a little bit of care, I am about to wander into spoiler territory. I I think it would probably be best uh, if you are concerned about spoilers. I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's it's a recommend to find the 3 hours to watch this movie. It is superior to the previous and the following remake. And if you can find the book, read it. So that's my recommendation. The movie is free with subtitles on YouTube. You can find it, watch it, and I think you'll enjoy it. Now, having said that, I'm going to pause for just a second, let everybody that wants to stop the video, wake up, and push the button. Excuse me. And we will get on with discussing some of the finer elements. When Chris arrives at the space station, this is about the only representation of spaceflight that happens. It's almost negligible. The the portal view of the space station shows us kind of a bookend here. The space station floating above the ocean. Now, having pointed that out, when he arrives, there is no one to greet him. There's a three-man crew, one of whom he knows, and I left out an important detail. He is sent there because he is a psychologist with a tremendous amount of baggage, and he is supposed to evaluate the men and the situation on the space station to determine if the space station should be kept in operation or not. Um, for whatever reason, none of the crew come to meet him. Uh, the place is a mess. They haven't made any effort to clean it up. They just don't care uh, to present the station in its best light to welcome their new visitor, and that's got to be a head scratcher to be sure. Now there are some mirrored surfaces on the wall here. They are the only mirrors that I can recall seeing in the film with the exclusion of the observatory and the bathroom. Uh, there might be another mirrored surface somewhere, but they're very hard to find. And I'm not sure that those are mirrors. They kind of look more like some kind of light uh, looking in. I think I see a filament, but I might be over interpreting a shadow there. And it's a bad set design to have uh, genuine mirrors anyway, because all the film magic gets lost in a shiny surface. Regardless, that's a detail. Now we meet Dr. Snout. Yes, that is really his name. His name is Dr. Snout. Here he appears to be, he's either stitching up his hand or uh, wrapping up a bandage. He is found in his own quarters. I believe it's his own quarters. And Chris finds that there is someone in the hammock behind Dr. Snout. And being gentlemanly and polite, he backs up upon seeing this, doesn't want to ask too many questions, and Snout cautions him. He says, "Your friend, Dr. Grabarian, has committed suicide, and under unusual circumstances, but not suspicious." And so Chris obviously wants to go find out, and he will. Um, I'm saying more than they said in the whole scene. The uh, the next person that Chris meets, well, he does go see Dr. Grabarian in a way, in by way of a taped message in the quarters of Dr. Grabarian, and there's a number of documents, drawings, and other stuff. And the actual gun that Grabarian used to shoot himself is still on his desk. Chris takes that so that he knows where it is, obviously. He transmits through his body language some suspicion of the other members of the crew. But this is the point where he starts to see out of the corner of his eye movement, people that are not members of the crew. And since he knows the three members of the crew, the other people he finds are not the people he knows. And in the clip, he sees people walking behind Grabarian, and they're not members of the crew. How would they get there? Very good question. The regular quarters in the space station look something like this. This is the sleeping quarters set aside for uh, Chris Kelvin. And again, notice there's no mirror here. You have to go into the bathroom to find a mirror. And that's when it happens. The first time that Chris meets Harry, who's been dead for 10 years. Dr. Santarius. It's that same crazy name that was in Bride of Frankenstein. He explains that these are visitors that manifest all on their own from the planet Solaris. and it's a result of X-ray testing being done when they beamed X-rays at the oceans. Um, People from their memories started to appear on the station. Ari's standing there. She's hearing all this. She's chill with it. She doesn't mind. So at some point, Chris gets a little bit nervous about this situation. Well, not at some point. He's nervous from the minute he gets on the station. Hari, when she's talking to, let me zoom that up a little bit. When she is talking to Chris, she's engaged, her eyes are locked on, but the minute that his eyes drift away, she shifts into a very placid, non-person state. It's very different. It's like in Blade Runner, you watch the eyes, or in The Thing, you watch the eyes. Harry, at one point, uh, well, I'll get into that later. Um, she panics when Chris is not around, and will tear through the walls of the space station to find him because of her absolute terror of being alone. Uh, why that would result in a panic, I'm sure that means something very great to a psychologist. However, even though she's injured herself tearing her way through the metal, as soon as he finds her, or she finds him, the injuries heal completely. She remains in her bloody costume, but uh, the cuts on her skin go away. Other people and things show up. Um, Chris's dog arrives on the station. Uh, a version of Harry from a different point in their life is sitting in a chair watching them. And there's an example of that placid expression she takes when she's not engaged with him. And Chris, feeling overwhelmed by the presence of Hari, who at this point he is convinced is an illusion or a simulation. He puts her on a rocket and shoots her off into space to basically get rid of her. However, she comes back. She turns up later and is more or less okay. Um, and the fact that these visitors or guests keep showing up for all three of the men that are currently alive uh, leaves a lot to be observed. In the dining room or the conference hall or the dance hall, whatever room this is, the crew have a nice opportunity to have a dinner party for I forget who it is. It's somebody's birthday, and I want to be careful about. Let me skip my thought down to this observatory. I have no idea why the man is walking around with just his shorts on. Um, Behind him is a reflective metal object that's shoved in the ground in a bizarre angle. This is an important set piece as you watch the movie. Um, it's it's reflective metal. It's a mirror. There are a number of specific mental challenges that uh, that that occur here. and a couple of those he has already attempted to kill Hari once. She attempts suicide by drinking liquid oxygen once. And then when he becomes ill, presumably just some virus, uh, they perform an experiment by transmitting his brain waves at the planet to try to convince the planet to stop making duplicates of Harry. And the planet does stop, but Harry, while he is sick and unconscious, she asks the other scientists to use a device called the Annihilator. The guests are calculated to be a structure of neutrino systems instead of matter composed of atoms. So they have a device that annihilates those neutrino systems. They use it on her, and she disappears from our reality. Uh, and as a result of that, he is just Chris is just really, really broken, and is left with the choice whether to stay on the station, go to Earth, to recommend that the station be closed down, or to keep it going. And the next thing we see is he's on Earth looking through the window. And his dad comes to the door and leaves us with a scene that's kind of unusual. The dog is there, his dad is there, and it's like a little boy hugging his father. Is he hanging on to the past, or is he hanging on to this present that he has? That's the real question that we're left with. And of course, the question of what is Hari when he's looking at her and when he's not? Is she becoming more human? Is she not? And with that being a question, what is he when he's asleep? What is he when he's awake? It's a worthy question. Then we pull back, and as we pull back farther, and we find that we are actually on an island floating on Solaris. The memories have stopped appearing on the station and are now taking the shape of islands on the surface of Solaris. And that's where the movie ends us. I think that's a very compelling way to handle the subject matter. Like I said, the amount of conversation and action is very, very, very mild. It's the salt on top of the potato, as it were. When you watch the movie, the impressions it leaves on your mind are very strong. And a couple of weeks later, you're going to still be thinking about it. It's been a couple of months since I watched it, and it's still coming up in my head every now and then. A little bit unusual. Oh, who do we have here? We have Maple Bob. I apologize, Maple Bob 23. I enjoyed the 1972 movie. The book didn't really stick in my mind, but the movie stuck with me. Either way, I'm still not sure what it is about. Exactly. It's it handles the question of the question that the answer is we need a mirror. And what is that question? That's what is niggling at your mind. And the scientists actually brings us up that what we need as humanity is we need a mirror, and that's why we as Americans went west and subjugated the Native Americans. That's uh, why the Germanics, I suppose, also went west and subjugated the Saxons, uh, or attempted to. The Norsemen, the various Chinese tribes or families, and that's how they got their dynasties, looking for that mirror to validate their existence, as we do. Uh, I'm sure there are ways that we do that to ourselves at work, at church, in other places. But that's beyond what I set out to do. I am going to leave everyone that watches this video with the recommendation. This is a definite recommend. I think it is the superior movie over the 2000 movie, 2000 something, and I encourage you to watch it. And let me know. Get back to me. Leave something in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the movie. What it made you think of. Did it get all trippy? I am sure your initial reaction after watching it is, I want those 3 hours back. But unlike Birds of Prey, you're going to continue to think about it and continue to have intelligent thought experiments with yourself and discussions with others. Having said that, if you don't mind, please hit the like button, click share, and subscribe. And I will thank you undyingly with my appreciation for helping other people like you find this video. And we will step away with just a quick nod to Justice for Noel Clark at Justice for Noel C. That's a campaign going on Twitter trying to help Noel Clark, Mickey Smith on Doctor Who, trying to help him regain his career after a false Me Tooing of his career. And I was one of the ones against him until I looked at the investigation by John White. So I'm just bringing that up. I hope you will get to do something with that as the days go on. Thank you so much, and I will in fact talk to you when I can.